Hi YouTube, welcome back to Wtf Rc Cars. So, got a video on the Noble Pro today, how to set up and use multiple different sensors. And I'm going to do this one on one of the enhanced receivers to show you how you set the ports from being a servo port or PWM into being an iBus port. Now, two sensors that I'm going to use, we've got a couple of temperature sensors and an external voltage monitor, and I use the external temperature sensors a lot. It's a really good way of on the fly keeping an eye on either your nitro engine, your petrol engine, your electric motor. You can even stick them in the fins on the ESC, so you can keep an eye on everything. And if you know a temperature you don't want to go above, you can also set an alarm for it. You can also monitor an external LiPo. They'll monitor plus or minus 100 volts, so you can pretty much monitor any LiPo setup. It just comes in really handy. So let's crack on with video. Right, so first thing we're going to need to do, we have got our receiver, so we're going to need that bound up to the transmitter. So for this one I'm using the FGR4B. But you've also got the 8B and the 12, so you'd have to decide how you want to set that up depending on which one you've got. So first off, we're going to go in channel definition, set it to 4, and then we can come out, go into as RX set. We're going to set as enhanced, no tick in the 2 RX mode, and we're going to have it as start channel as steering. So we're going to press and hold the bind button, and then we're going to power up our receiver, let go of bind button, then we've got it bound up. Right, so once you have this bound up and it's in the RX set menu, so we want to go to interface protocol, and if you notice you've got them labelled A, B, C and D. So if you look at the actual receiver itself, you can see they're labelled A to D, but A's not channel 1, A's channel 4. So if you're using your steering on channel 1, your throttle on channel 2, and then you can have channel 3 and 4 spare. So we've got A and B that we can choose from. So we're going to set it to channel 4, which is A. So you click on PWM, change that to iBus in. Then if we back out all the way and you click your sensor panel at the top and go display sensors. Right, so channels 1 to 3 are going to operate as normal. So we'll get as temperature sensor. We'll plug it into channel 4. And as soon as you plug this in, you'll see it light up. And then on the screen, we've now got temperature. And if you hold it with your fingers, you can see the temperature starts to rise, let go, and the temperature will start to fall back down. Now, if we want to add another temperature sensor, then all you need to do, you don't lose another channel, you just plug the next temperature sensor in, and then you'll see that light up as well. And then we get another temperature sensor, and again, if you hold the temperature probe, you'll see the temperature go up and then start coming back down. And then if you want to monitor an external LiPo, so this time into the last temperature sensor, you plug your external voltage sensor, and then again you'll see that appear, and at the minute it's not measuring anything. So if we get a external battery and we plug positive into positive on the balance, negative into negative, so you just plug your voltage monitoring pins in. We've got as light on as voltage monitor, and then you can see on the screen we're monitoring 7.45 volt. So once we've got all these connected up and we can see them on a sensor panel, You can then go choose sensors to change the layout of all these. So we can decide that we want to have a temperature sensor, and then we can decide we don't want an alarm for the lowest temperature but the highest temperature. And this is going to change depending on what you're monitoring. At the moment I've got mine set up in degrees C, so if for whatever reason we'll just pick a random temperature that's easy to hit with my fingers holding it. But if we set this to 30 degrees, so we set the high temp to 30, then we come off, we go on to the bottom one, and then we can decide we want another temperature sensor, and again we'll set the high alarm on this one and set this to 30 degrees. And then we can decide maybe we don't want to monitor the RX voltage, but instead on the screen all the time we want to monitor external. And then we've got as high and low alarms. So this is the value that the alarm's going to trigger. So as high alarm, you want that set at the highest possible voltage that that battery is going to be, or just above. So what we got plugged in, I think it's a Gens Ace bashing. So the highest voltage that's going to be is a 2S. So let's just bring it above. I just don't want alarm going off. So it's going to be 8.4 volts, so we'll just set it to 8.5 just so it don't go off. And then if you want the lowest point, I mean that's a LiPo, so 3.3 volt per cell, so you don't want to drain it any lower than 6.6 volt. So we set 6.6 volt. As soon as that LiPo hits 6.6 volt, we'll get an alarm. So then when we back out, we've got our external voltage, we've got one temperature and the other. And then if we grab one of the temperature probes and we just hold it, and you'll see the temperature's now rising. As soon as it gets above 30, it triggers an alarm and flashes red, so you know which one it is. Then we let off, let the temperature drop back down. And as soon as it gets below 30, which is a temperature warning point, and again, if we get the first one and we hold it, you'll see temperature rise. And then as soon as it's above 30, we get an alarm telling us which one's going off. If we let go of it and it comes back down, we get the alarm stopped. And obviously I can't drain a LiPo while it's plugged in like this, but if we disconnect it to simulate the battery going flat, we then get the alarm warning us that the battery's flat or to the level that we want it set at. And as soon as power's restored or it's charged above the alarm level, it stops going off. Now, what I find it handy with these temperature sensors, you can mount them into your fins on your ESC, so you can monitor your ESC temp. Or I find it quite handy to get a little thermal pad and just a zip tie and mount them to the actual motor itself. If you use thermal paste or a thermal pad to make sure that the heat's all getting transferred to it, and then you'll be able to get an accurate reading real time on your controller of your motor and your ESC. If you were concerned, you could also get some Velcro and strap them to your batteries, and that way you can monitor the temp of your LiPos if you're worried about them setting on fire, and you'll get a warning way before they actually get hot enough to burst into flames, and hopefully it'll save your RC. But it's quite a nice easy way of doing it. To add more sensors, you just keep plugging them in. I'm not really sure what limit is. I think it's at least 12. Not really sure what you'd do with 12 sensors though on one RC, but the possibilities are endless. Monitor each separate LiPo on like a Creighton or do whatever you like with them. It will work. At the minute I'm just powering this off a LiPo, but you can power it off your ESC. It'll work exactly the same. You can also choose which one of these ports that you want to assign. Both the FGR8B and the FGR12B have got 4 fully assignable ports. So you can have iBus set on one for sensors, you can use a different port for S-Bus and everything else, or iBus out, because we've got this set on iBus in. But yeah, really nice and easy to set up, but extremely useful. Especially if you're running an RC and you're worried how close to the temp limit you're getting on your motor or your LiPos, or even your ESC. Good for diagnosing issues as well. If you think that your ESC is overheating and you think it's going into thermal shutdown but you're not sure, you can set your alarm, see what temperature it shuts down at, and then set your alarm just before that, so you know that it's not going to cut out, you know to back off. But let's wrap this one up. So there you go. Hopefully you find that easy enough to follow. There is the 4 ports. Little bit weird that they named 1 to 4 and then A to B the opposite way, but once you can see the actual labelling on the receivers themselves. And they are very, very cheap, these, and really easy to set up. You can put a little bit of sticky tape on back and stick them anywhere on RC. Also very handy that they daisy chain, so you're not losing more ports the more sensors you have. And the fact that you can daisy chain them, you can work out whereabouts in your RC you need to fasten them, so you don't have to use extensions, because you've got a good bit of length on the sensor itself, but then the next sensor plugs in. So if your LiPos are at back and your motor's front mounted, you can choose to have your temp sensor up the front and then use the cable to get it to your LiPo at the back. Thanks again for watching Wtf Rc Cars. Hopefully you find this useful, entertaining. Don't forget to share to friends and family. And don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell. Catch you guys again in the next one.